Space Marine 2 is pretty good. Most people would say that. Let's go.
So as you probably know, Space Marine 2 recently released, and it's gone pretty well. The game reached a peak player count of 134,000 concurrent on Steam, which
That is less than I would expect, but still really good, honestly.
put it in the top 15 games on the platform for the week, which in and of itself isn't bad, but there's two additional points worth adding. For one, this was the pay extra for earlier access release with the lowest available.
I hate this pay extra stuff. Space Marine 2, by the way, is 4 days, not your typical 3 days. At this rate, it's gonna be 4 days, 5 days, a week, a month, a year, pre-order, and play 5 years early. It's gonna be hell at this point. Someone needs to outlaw this practice because it's simply just, it's just bad.
Option ringing up at $90 US. So I expect that there are a decent number of people who are waiting until the official launch on Monday, which is priced at the standard 60 USD. This will at the very least bring another surge of players, if not surpassing the prior peak. Either way though, it's quite
It is currently Monday, but I'm not gonna check because it's 3 p.m. so no one's back from work, so not a lot of people are playing in general, probably.
very impressive for the franchise because you have to consider point number two, and that is that 134,000 concurrent players officially puts Space Marine 2 just behind Total War Warhammer 3 as the second most popular Warhammer game to launch on Steam ever, and that is awesome. Putting aside
And Warhammer 3, a really good game, not gonna lie.
my general dislike for the whole pay us extra money to play the game earlier than those who don't trend. We've been seeing this across.
Man, I've been thinking for a long time, should I get into the Warhammer, what's it called? Warhammer Total War thing 3. Oh yeah, I've been thinking about for a long time. I want to spread those Nurgle plagues like there's no tomorrow, boys. But then again, roughly 400 euros worth of DLC kind of sounds bad and unaffordable. Thank you.
Across the entire industry, and I don't love it ever, but
No, but you don't need to buy the Beastmen DLC. Yes, even I, without playing the game, know that because they're trash. But still, there's a lot of DLC that you probably are gonna end up buying if you're gonna liking the game. And that's a huge turn off for me, okay? A game being $50, okay, that's fine. I buy like one AAA game maybe a year at best, right? And then I buy maybe a indie game or two that's the equivalent of 20 euros. But $400 of DLC? Nah, man, I'm fine.
those marketing and sales tactics aside, the game itself, what do I think of it? Well, I think it's very good. Like, fact is, I actually think it's the best Warhammer game I've ever played, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of
This is probably true because there's a campaign, you can play multiplayer things with friends or bots or whatever. There is a lot of value in this game. It's easily gonna, if you're into it, you're easily gonna play this for a week straight if all things align.
of its gameplay, its production value, the world building, the sheer badassery of the whole thing. It's a great Warhammer game. I mean, I've just thoroughly enjoyed Space Marine 2. It's not a perfect game, there's plenty of room for improvement, but I have generally loved my time with it thus far, even more so now that the PvP is up and running, which has been stupid good fun, by the way. It's rather simple and straightforward, not a lot to it, but it's still fun. And yeah, so for all those reasons,
The PvP did look kind of cool there, not gonna lie.
I'm quite happy to see that the game is doing well right now. Now, the critic reviews, they've sort of been a mixed bag. They do lean positive. Currently, the game's averaging a score of 83 on Metacritic and also an 83 on OpenCritic, which
Dude, listen. This probably, I think this scored like a 7 from all the critics and all the garbage human beings like that. And Concord also scored 7. Wukong scored an 8, I think, or something like that. Dude, listen, the critics' opinions literally do not matter. A guy on the internet, I haven't played this game, by the way, I'm probably not gonna play it. It's super cool and I would like it, but I got other things, sadly, to do in my pathetic life. I wish I could. But, even me telling you that this looks awesome, because you have eyes and you're not a moron who needs a critic to tell you what's good and what isn't, you know that this is good. So the critic opinions Don't matter.
with it getting a 91% critic recommendation. The reviews
Wait. What did we saw here? IGN an 8. Oh, they scored them an 8. PC Gamer 6 out of 10. Okay, PC Gamer. Relax, you're dead and forgotten. Get out.
91% critic recommendation. The reviews range from being in the 80s and 90s to the lowest score from a major publication being 60, and that came from both PC Gamer and PC Games N. Now, even for all my various critiques of Space Marine 2, which I do have a few, it was
Isn't PC Gamer also super woke?
curious to see scores quite that low.
Well, all of them are super woke. Again, IGN gave Concord a 7, and they defended Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And they said Skull and Bones is good. And all of the things that you know are wrong in the world.
Low. 6 out of 10. I don't know, it just doesn't jive with me, right? Now, the TLDR of my review was that I really like the game. I think it does a ton of things right, and I would recommend it to people with a few caveats and exceptions. However, for me, the pros outweigh the cons. And those pros include the gameplay being really good, like exceptionally good. I'd consider the moment-to-moment combat in Space Marine 2 to be like a 10 out of 10. Just the whole process of mowing through hordes of Tyranids and Chaos Marines, they knocked it out of the park. You were constantly surrounded by an insane number of enemies, fighting your way through, cleaving down the weaker ones, focusing with and clashing on the bigger ones, timing your parries and dodges to get perfect counters, while also keeping an eye out for interrupts, for dodging sniper fire, and for aiding.
Yeah, this looks so good. By the way, considering YouTube is YouTube, people are now watching my first video that I did on this, and it was just what we saw at the start. And man, Space Marine 2 did not look good in the start, okay, when I saw it. Very few enemies. The only time that you saw a lot of enemies was like, oh, look at that, there's Tyranid Swarm running from there, and you have to run in a different direction, blah, 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 blah. It looked so bad, honestly. I called it like a 4 out of 10 at the best of days. It was pretty garbage. And now people are saying that aged like milk. Yeah, but, well, thankfully we actually got a really good game at the end of the day, huh?
Your teammates when they need help. All of this coupled with the over-the-top finishers that break up the action.
Also, whoever marketed the game at the start and released those segments of gameplay should be fired because they are an idiot.
Just the whole thing, it's very enjoyable, it is visceral, and it all has a real nice flow to it. Honestly, it's one of the better combat systems in a third-person action game that I've played in a while. I just really, really like it. And as someone who isn't even into the franchise, it's also pretty clear to me that they have nailed this whole Space Marine fantasy. I mean, you are playing as what is essentially a lumbering bringer of...
Yeah, what's hard to nail there? You're a big burly man that towers over the typical individual, and you have to save lives and be objectively the good hero type. That's not really hard to do, okay? And you're tearing through hordes of evil bugs that are gonna rip everyone to pieces, and other evil things that are evil. It couldn't be easier than this. Now, admittedly, I say that, but at the same time, Ring of Power Season 2 exists, which is questionable at best, but you know.
Death, stomping your way through levels and yeeting everything that is in your path into this alternate dimension. Death, they're all dying. While at the same time, all of this like over-the-top crazy stuff is happening. There are just so many moments where all around you, off in the distance and up in the skies, they're just swarms and swarms of...
Yeah, this is what we saw at the very, very beginning when we got the first trailers for this game. And it's like, okay, you see literally thousands, millions of Tyranids just invading and running in and doing stuff, but you can't interact with them, you can't fight them, you can't do anything. And, well, here's 3 small Tyranids to you to fight. Jesus, how they messed up that at the start.
Literally thousands of enemies with explosions going off everywhere, lass and bolt gunfire constantly raining, while you and your team is stomping ever forward, smashing your way through those masses. In my review, I said it feels like the personification of playing through like a death metal album, short of something like Metal Hellsinger. Space Marine 2 gives exactly those vibes. And with that as well, the world building here is top notch. The developer clearly has done a great job and has a passion for representing the grim, oppressive feeling as well as the massive scale of just about everything in the 40k universe. These towering, gothic-inspired structures that...
This is why 40k succeeds so hard, honestly, in my opinion. It's the scale, and it's the architecture. No modern day BS architecture that doesn't make sense, and you wanna put on your ski mask on. You know what I'm saying? None of that. And the scale is good. The scale is beautiful, ginormous, and large, which is, by the way, exactly what you would expect from a galaxy-spanning empire. Not the typical, oh, we're a galaxy-spanning empire, and let's get our 5 agriculture resources from this planet that has like one fucking shitty farm on it. No, that never would happen, obviously.
That pierce through the clouds, those never-ending waves of enemies pouring through the streets and filling up the skies, while you and your allies, as well as your artillery, there to meet them in a bombastic show. Just the visuals, the sounds, all the set pieces, and all the action that's taking place, it is pretty amazing from start to finish as far as that is concerned. And then the game ran well for me, and performance was really good outside of a few noticeable hitches here and there. For the most part, game ran smooth as butter, although I do have a high-end PC, and from what I've read and heard, not everyone's performance has been great. Now, for all of
Yeah, obviously you need to not have a potato PC to run this. That is beyond obvious, right?
that in mind, there are some cons, starting with a few of the smaller gripes I had, like the lack of FOV slider. This is especially noticeable playing on PC. The game does have this like dynamic camera where it will change positions based on what's occurring on the screen, and at its very worst, your character can easily take up a fourth, if not a third, of the entire frame, the whole
Well, he's a big boy.
screen, which is just a bit much. But yes, at all times, I think an FOV slider that lets me extend my field of view, that would be very, very welcome. Another con is this inconsistent feel to the parry system, which just resulted in me dodging most of the time because it was far more reliable and far less punishing. Even if you didn't have perfect timing, at least you dodged away from the damage rather than sitting there in an animation that missed and then getting
Oh, that looked good.
hit. I felt the campaign pacing was just a little off, with lots of stops to the action, lots of fades to black, and downtime with the abundant use of corridors and elevators all throughout. And also the game has what I would consider a fairly almost artificial feeling drawn out PvE class progression. It took us roughly 30 hours on average to reach max level on a single character class, which in and of itself wouldn't be a problem if not for what is my biggest issue with the game
That does sound reasonable, I think.
currently, and that is its content variety. The game's just a bit on the lighter side in terms of the amount and variety of content.
Whoa.
There's nothing else to it. The campaign took us just under 6 hours playing on hard, which people thought was fast at the time.
6 hours? That is really, really fast. Like, either they completely blitzed it, or man, maybe they're just really, really good. I have no idea, but man, 6 hours is definitely way too fast. I think this is not gonna even remotely mirror the average person's experience.
Time of the review, I got that feedback, but now that the game is out in the wild, it seems like many other players are also finishing in that 6 to 8 hour range. So most of your time and most
Okay, 8 hours is okay. 6 hours is way too fast, though. But, well, if a game is good enough, honestly, an 8-hour campaign, okay, sure, fine. The more the merrier, obviously. But I'm not someone who believes in the principle, okay, you're playing a AAA game. Now because of that, you need to have a 20-hour campaign, 100%, no less, no more. I don't believe that. This game has multiplayer elements and things like that. Even if you finish the campaign, you still have things to do and things to enjoy. So, I'm not seeing that as a problem. Honestly, $30 for a 2-hour campaign that's amazing. I would take that over something that's $20 for 20 hours, but it's just mediocrity at its finest.
most of the replayability in Space Marine 2 is going to come from the other modes, those being the PvE co-op operations and the competitive PvP. The PvP is a lot of fun. I really enjoy it, and for those of you who do, that's great. It's rather simple and straightforward. You got teams of 6 competing on a handful of maps in 1 of 3 modes that amount to racking up kills or controlling zones. It's been fun, simple but fun. It's a nice mode to mess around with, but I'm also aware that not everyone cares about PvP, in which case, after the campaign, what you have left is the PvP PvE co-op operations. So there are 6 missions in total, which you will run over and over again. You do this to level up your classes, unlocking
They're probably gonna add more, I assume.
new perks and weapons, making you stronger, and this lets you push the difficulty higher from tiers 1, 2 to 3, and 4. But beyond the enemies getting tougher and a more frequent occurrence of the mini bosses, not much changes from the easiest to the hardest difficulty. It is the same mission.
He just doesn't enjoy it too much. Okay, because this is a valid criticism, but this is also a stupid criticism, but not in a bad way. It's just, well, yeah, it's harder. Obviously, the things that they're gonna do is, one of 3 things or a mix of 3 things. Less drops, less ammo, less everything, more enemies, or stronger enemies. Maybe a mix of 2 or 3 of these things, who knows, but, well, yeah, obviously, that's pretty much, sadly, the only thing you can't do legitimately to make it different.
That have the exact same level layout every time. The corridors, the halls, the open areas. It is all always exactly the same. It's just the mix of enemies that you get, their placement, what types of them, that will change from run to run. And then, of course, the higher the difficulty, the harder they are. They deal more damage, they kill you faster, etc., etc. Now, the gameplay is amazing. Like I said, I love playing Space Marine 2, and I do recommend the game. It's just the one major caveat being the fact that it is on that lighter side of content. So depending on your appetite for the PvE operations, grinding those, or for playing PvP, your mileage, aka your playtime, may vary quite a lot. Now, they do have some big updates planned with more content coming.
By the way, bro has that gamer shirt with the tear there. He just has the shirt for recording. By the way, same. I literally put this on just for doing this right now. Man, I have not bought a single new piece of clothing, I think, in 5 years at this point. I think I should. And you know what that means. Going online and just, buying a bunch of cheap shit and seeing how it goes. I don't want to do that, even though it takes roughly, 5 minutes, and you're set for the next 5 years. Man, the clothing industry literally just runs on women, huh?
In time, not at this very second. As for myself, I've already played over 50
Yeah, see that is not design. It's just a hole. Completely relatable.
hours and counting. I will be playing a bit more over the next week for sure. Specifically, I'm planning to spend more time with the PvP, and I'll be totally happy if I finish this game at around a 60 or 70 hour mark, because hey, not every game needs to last forever or be a live service with thousands of potential hours of content. But I also understand that not everybody feels that way, which is why I bring it up. It's why I talk about it, because the game does.
Yeah, for each their own. Nothing bad if you want to play a game forever. Nothing bad if you want to play a game for 5 hours, even if it's supposed to be played forever. It's just how people just want to do it. For each their own.
Clearly have a limited scope.
No right, no wrong answer here.
And limited content variety. People's budgets for gaming are different, and there's plenty of people out there who are looking to maximize the bang for their buck, and I get that. Not every game can fulfill that, and I don't think Space Marine 2 really does, but again,
well, yeah, everyone wants to buy a game that they are satisfied with, otherwise, well, you bought shit.
And to me, that's totally fine. I just need people to be aware if that's not the case for them. Now that the game is officially out, the user reviews have also started pouring in. On launch day, they started off at a mixed rating, but it has since been climbing and currently actually sits at mostly positive with a 77%.
Why did they start that mixed rating? I'm unaware of something. I heard that there was a campaign against Space Marine because there was not enough Vulcan, but doesn't this game actually have a female Space Marine? Okay, let's check. Warhammer 40k, Space Marine 2, female Astartes. So someone has already searched for it. Okay. I see this, but I know that this is an AI-generated thing. Oh, made an approximation of what a female Space Marine would look like. Shut the fuck up and go back to your cave, you absolute cretin. Approximation of a female Space Marine. Not seeing anything about actually having female Space Marines. Space Marine 2, female Astartes, question mark. What is this? Female Astartes, just a question. They will add them after the game is released, and in the sales, do not worry. As soon as in the sales, we will get rainbow swords and female Astartes. A Czechoslovakian flag user. Okay, yeah, that's believable. Any case, well, maybe that was wrong. I kind of heard that there is a females, because Games Workshop did do that to the custodies. Oh, yeah, sure, of course there's female custodies. There always have been. Listen, I honestly think female Space Marines would not actually be the worst thing in the universe if they actually made them make sense. Okay? Listen, you're literally taking normal humans and monstrifying them with creatures with multiple hearts and new organs, okay? Doing that to a woman and still getting a pretty good result, something that can still just crush the skull of a normal human being, has a lot of potential. But they need to do it properly, in some lore way, which they honestly completely think missed, with Fabius Bile creating the new version of the Space Marines, the Primaris Marines, and still we see no females there. You know, there are ways that you can technically do it, but then again, the negatives and chances of succeeding and not doing it in the cringe woke loser way, I think, are very slim. Also, that would completely devalue the Sisters of Battle, which are absolutely fucking awesome, and that would be even sadder, honestly.
As of this recording. If you're curious, by the way, the threshold here is 70. So below 70%, down all the way to 40, a game will have a rating of mixed. And then once you reach 70, it tips over to mostly positive. And then from 70 to 80%, at 80%, it bumps into just plain old positive. Now, I believe on launch day, that mixed score was something like a 66 or 67. It was around there. So it's already climbed 10 points all the way up to 77%. And I think there's a good chance it gets those additional 3 points and at least breaks the 80% threshold, tipping it over into a flat out positive rating, because yes, it is a good game overall in spite of its shortcomings. User reviews have seemed to mostly echo the main points that I had in my review in terms of the positive sides of the game. Although obviously you also, on top of that, have the whole dedicated 40k fandom in here who are far more invested and fanatical about the franchise than myself. So there's a whole lot of like "For the Emperor" being shouted.
Wait, was it actually Fabius Bile who created the female? Not female, but made the Smurfs bigger. Or was that the evil one? I forget. I'm talking about the main guy in the Mechanicus. Don't remember him because the Mechanicus sucks dick, and you should feel bad.
In the user reviews, it's kind of funny, and honestly, good on him. I'd say it's about time. As I mentioned earlier, Space Marine 2 is officially the second most successful Warhammer game to come to Steam in terms of concurrent players, even though there's been quite a lot of Warhammer games. Many of them didn't turn out so great. So I think it's awesome that Warhammer 40k fans and just Warhammer fans in general are finally getting some good games for their favorite IP. Now, beyond all the positives and the negatives covered in my review, there have been some additional launch-specific pain points that have cropped up. So these include being matched into lobbies with a duplicate class to the one that you've selected. Okay, so there are 6 classes in the game. They fill different roles, they got different playstyles and special abilities.
I mean, that's not the worst thing in the universe, I guess.
And weapons they can use. And in the PvE operations, there can only be one of each class per squad. Now, when we played the game for review, this wasn't a problem. My friends and I, we all just picked separate classes. We played it and we liked what we played, right? However, now that launch is here, people are picking the class that they want to play. So let's just say it's the Bulwark. And then they are matchmaking into operations and they are getting placed into teams that already have a Bulwark, which then forces the joining player to pick a different class. Now, seeing as they have selected a class before they even enter matchmaking, the obvious solution here would be to not match people with a squad that already has the class that they have selected in it, or at the very least give play.
This could maybe not be a bug, but something they did intentionally just so matchmaking is faster. There is a chance.
There's the option to do so, even if that means slightly increased queue times to match into a smaller pool of players, right? So hopefully this is something that they can address soon, because I've seen this complaint crop up quite a lot. Speaking of matchmaking, it has had some issues with the servers likely loaded these first few days. Matching has been inconsistent, if not downright broken at times. Even just loading into the game, like even just getting into the battle barge, has been difficult during certain times of day. It's just not happening. And then you have the people attempting to join an operation or to queue into PvP and simply not finding any matches, just forever spinning the wheel essentially. And this isn't due to lack of players. There's over 100,000 peak players playing every day, but the matchmaking services are clearly not working properly, and that is likely due to overload. So this isn't an uncommon issue, but it is nevertheless annoying whenever it happens, although it is likely to smooth out over the coming week. So we're hope for that. Another one of the recurring complaints that I've been seeing is the fact that the AI teammates are just bad. Like something that I didn't notice in my review because I played with real people, but now that the game is out and players are trying to solo the harder difficulties with an AI squad, apparently it's not good. Not even, they're just really, really bad. They don't work with you
that sounds bad though.
at all. They tend to not stick to the objective, and they deal what seems like negative damage. I do remember that from my preview the other month. Now on the plus side, it does seem like they never die, and they will res you almost instantly if you go down, but that doesn't clearly make up for all that they are lacking. Considering how many people prefer to play games like this solo, hopefully they can address this soon. The first thing that comes to mind would be allowing you to issue commands to your AI teammates, even if it's just like a focus fire command. Even if you could just tell your two squad members to shoot a particular target, I think that would add a lot. In fact, the game already has a ping system, so maybe they could just move this functionality into that as well. Another big thing I saw people complaining about was the fact that the game automatically installs the Epic Online services. So the developer has stated that this was done in order to support the optional crossplay between Steam and Epic players, as well as to synchronize
Wow. Two Epic players, man, what a loss.
Friends list between the two stores. The fact that they installed this additional like supportive software in addition to the game does not bother me at all, but I know there's people who really don't like this sort of thing. If it does bother you, as far
Yeah, it makes sense that people don't like this, but I don't personally think stuff like that is the biggest of deals.
as I've read, you can totally uninstall the Epic Online services and the game will still function properly. It's just you won't have that like Steam to Epic Game Store synchronization. But if you don't care, apparently you can still run the game without it by installing the game and then uninstalling Epic Online services. Now, while the game did run perfectly fine for me in terms of performance, it hasn't been universal, as I mentioned. Some users have reported issues with the game ranging from fluctuating frame rates and random stuttering to outright hard crashing to desktop, obviously something that we hope they address. And then finally, the final big consistent complaint that I'm seeing is the lack of FOV slider. Now that was in my review, but I want it so badly, I just had to.
Okay.
I'm happy to say it's good. Try to capture them, cap your points, you win. Now
Okay, well, I guess that's pretty much it. Anyway, that was Sports Gaming. Nice. 10 out of 10. Bye.